literally, from a person who's been a surgeon, a firefighter, a garbage collector, is literally the hardest thing you can do.
Ever feel like you suck at this job? Motherhood, I mean. Have too much anxiety and not enough patience? Too much yelling, not enough play? There's no manual, no village, no guarantees. The stakes are high. We want so badly to get it right. But this is survival mode. We're just trying to make it to bedtime. So if you're full of mom guilt, your temper scares you, you feel like you're screwing everything up, and you're afraid to admit any of those things out loud, this podcast is for you. This is Failing Motherhood. I'm Danielle Bettman, and each week we'll chat with a mom ready to be real, sharing her insecurities, her fears, her failures, and her wins. We do not have it all figured out. That's not the goal. The goal is to remind you, you are the mom your kids need. They need what you have, you are good enough, and you're not alone. I hope you pop in earbuds, somehow sneak away, and get ready to hear some hope from the trenches. You belong here, friend. We're so glad you're here. Hey, it's Danielle. I'm so glad you're tuning in today. Today on this episode, I am talking to Dr. Manuela Powell, who's a mindset coach who helps exhausted, strong women get past all the bullshit rules of society so they can live exactly as who they are. For almost 20 years, Manuela was a cancer surgeon, and after having her second child at 44, she craved more flexibility and freedom to be with her family. She put away her scalpel to instead dissect women's souls and help them excise the shoulds and the I'm not good enoughs from their brain forever so they can have the audacity to live a full life. Manuela fiercely believes the day all women realize how powerful they are will be the day the world completely changes for the better. She's a native of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and after living in New York City, Washington, D.C., and Hawaii, she currently calls Austin, Texas her home, as a single mom to her two awesome little dudes. She now stitches fabric instead of people, pets every dog that crosses her path, and loves making a fool of herself at improv. Which I love. My husband and I took an improv class a couple years ago, and it was such an escape. It was so much fun. We felt so silly, and my jaw ached from how hard I was laughing at ourselves and at the other people in the group. So she ends up talking about that. But what I love from this episode is getting to pick her brain for her journey of rediscovering herself, because being a breast cancer surgeon up until 42, becoming a mom late in life, all of a sudden she went from this audacious, full-spirited person to June Cleaver. Found an old picture of herself and realized, who am I? What has happened to me? How do I get her back? Ended up discovering life coaching and has been on a self-development journey ever since. It's so interesting to me to see what ends up being the thing that helps moms redefine themselves. And for her, it was that, and now she's a certified coach. And I ask her kind of what comes up with a lot of her clients, and she shares some of the common experiences and things that she really recommends rethinking and diving into. She talks about things that we could journal after this episode. She talks about ways to recognize and become more aware and conscious of our self-talk and our thoughts. And I'm still constantly discovering just how powerful that is for myself and my own journey. And I really wish I would have known some of these things in early motherhood. So if that's for you, I'm so grateful that you get to hear this now. Should we also wrap up by sharing more of her early story and how it relates to Roe v. Wade? And she gives some medical advice coming from her doctor perspective as well. So stay tuned for that. But before we dive into that episode, I just want to remind you that if you are a family that has a super strong-willed kid, age 1 to 7, you know that you need more patience and you don't like the person that you're becoming because you're relying on lots of threats and bribes and yelling, and your relationship with your child is the thing that keeps you on track, or you feel like you're most worried about and it's not aligned with where you know you want that relationship to be, and you're wanting to move away from more of like the punishments and rewards, really, really strict form of discipline, but don't know what to do instead because that's not what was used for you as a child. And your partner is an engaged partner and they also want to feel like a good parent, and if they don't know what to do either, then you're the perfect candidate for coaching. We can either work together through Sanity and Solutions, where we have 3 focuses: extending your patience using the Triggers workbook, getting on the same page by writing your family business plan, and improving your strong-willed kids' behavior by cultivating cooperation using positive discipline strategies. Those are our 3 focuses. We use Zoom, we use Voxer, we use a workbook, we use Kajabi as an online portal, and we just get to work on all of your biggest pain points, creating an individualized plan that I walk you through step by step to get back on track, not only to where you used to be, but to where you never thought was possible for your family. I also have the 11-week group program, Wholeheartedly Calm, that just focuses on the 2 main ones, patience and positive discipline. And we walk step by step, creating a toolkit for you to pull from week by week, building on the last. And then you get the opportunity to have the camaraderie of the validation and the shared ideas of the other families in that group as well. So if you really feel that tug on your heart that now is the time, go ahead and reach out and just schedule your free consultation. That's where you can ask me questions and I can ask you questions to see if your family is really going to be a good fit for the coaching that I offer. And the biggest, most important piece is knowing that you're ready for the commitment, knowing that the time was yesterday, and being able to do the work it takes to actually implement everything. So think that through, schedule your consultation, and I would be so honored to come alongside you and cheer you on. So that link is in the show notes, or go to wholeheartedly.as.me/call. All right, let's dive into the episode with Dr. Manuela. Welcome to Failing Motherhood. My name is Danielle Bettman, and on today's episode, I'm joined by Dr. Manuela Powell. Hello, how are you? Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm super excited to chat with you.
I am too. We connected, I don't even know how long ago. A year or 2?
Probably 2. I think it was right in the beginning of the pandemic, because that's when I kind of had a Facebook group that you came in and spoke to. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So like
So
way back. And it's been a blur since then.
Exactly.
I don't even know what's happened. I think the pandemic's wrapping up. We're not sure. But when we reconnected on Facebook again a couple weeks ago, I was surprised that I hadn't reached back out for the podcast because you're such a perfect candidate. You have so much to your backstory. We could do like a 3.5-hour episode. So We'll see where we go today. But before we get into all of that, go ahead and just introduce yourself. I kind of gave your bio already, but who are you and who's in your family?
Yeah, so my name is Manuela Powell, as you said. I'm a life coach for women, strong women who are exhausted of the bullshit rules of society and just still want to live life as who they are. And I have 2 boys. They are 7 and almost 5. And they are amazing. And they make me really rethink all the things that I knew about life in general. My then husband, we're just going through a separation, so it's been like we're in the midst of it, and it's an adjustment for everyone. So I'm happy that the boys are doing well with that. But it's when you really think about, oh, am I failing this or what am I doing?
Right, yeah. Which brings us to why we're here on Failing Motherhood. Have you ever felt like you were failing motherhood?
Have I ever? Okay. Yes. The short answer is yes. And I think I became a mom real late. I was 42 of my first and 44 of my second. So I thought that I was like a fully formed adult and I would be fine, that nothing would change. And it's adorable that I thought that. But yeah, but it was not what happened. And I immediately became, I don't know, it just like a switch flipped in my head. And it was just basically all of the things that society tells us that you're supposed to be as a woman. And then when I become a mom, I was like, oh, now it's like 100% more of that. And there's no way that no person on earth can ever be all those things. So I feel like it's really, really easy to think you're a horrible mom if you look outside of yourself. And I actually posted about that on Mother's Day because my son came home with a little thing from school, my oldest. And the thing was, my mom always said, and he was supposed to like make a drawing and say one thing that I always say. And what he said was, I love you. What he put there that I always say. And I was like, oh man, see, I think I'm messing a lot of this up, but the important thing is getting through.
How reassuring.
So that made me like, yeah, and you know what? I'm going to mess them up for sure because I'm human and that's just part of life. But the important thing, like they know that they're loved. So I think I'm doing something right.
You are doing something right. Yes. And you really have to look for the evidence of that sometimes.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
So I know when we first connected, one of the words that you said you just resonated with and seemed to describe you before motherhood was audacious. What does that word mean to you? And how did you go from that to turning into June Cleaver?
Yeah. So I've been called intimidating a lot of times. I was a cancer surgeon before becoming a doctor. I was a firefighter.
Minor details, slip that in.
Minor details.
Like we all are.
Right. So I did that for 20 years. It was not like I graduated and stopped. I did that for a long time. I worked at Sloan Kettering. I was, full on successful career. And then I had my kids and we lived in Brazil at the time. That's where I'm from. My husband is from here, from the U.S., well, my ex-husband. And then, I don't know. I felt like, yeah, I would be that person still, like the badass, And then I noticed with my first son that I found this picture of me when I was living in Hawaii and I was dancing in a burlesque show. And that photo just made me like, oh my God, who is that person? Where did she go? Because like that was me just like 5 minutes before I had kids. It was literally the day I met my husband. And so that's who he met, a person dancing in a burlesque show. And then suddenly I'm like, yes, let me do everything for everyone. So I don't know. I feel like now I do associate a lot with that word again, but it took me conscious effort to look and see, wait, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why do I think, for instance, he was always very, very helpful and very hands-on. And when our first was just a little baby, like a newborn, I would look sometimes at him and he's like sitting on the couch with the baby on the little packet thing, right? The little carrier, doing his thing. And I'll be like, oh my God, he's doing a thing that is not, I don't know, washing bottles and whatever. And he would offer to do all the things, but somehow there was this thing in my mind. I was like, no, I need to do all the things. And it was not conscious. I didn't think that. It was just, no, I'll do it. And I don't know, just hold the baby, which is like, yeah, you can hold a newborn and do like things. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really don't know what is that thing that switches that, at least for me, like what was that made me from the badass intimidating person to like, yes, now I'm just a servant to everyone. But it really took, seeing that picture for whatever reason and looking and saying, no, wait, how do I get that person back? Like where is she? And she must be here somewhere. And that was my work in the beginning of my life coaching career, which was to just like find that. And then once I found her. Here I am again. So with my second son was already different, but it really took noticing first and then taking steps to notice like why I'm not being heard anymore.
Okay. So listeners,
I don't know if I answered the question. Like,
no, you did.
Just like when, like somewhere. Anyway, here we are.
So I'm sure all the listeners are like, okay, well, like how though? Because that's where I'm at right now. And I'm just realizing it, especially with, I think the pandemic has kind of like put a lot of things aside too, where we're just in survival mode and our heads down every day and time is flying, and it feels very much like, what am I doing? Who am I?
Yeah.
Like midlife crisis for everybody at every age, you know what I mean? So like, what did that look like for you for some of those beginning, looking for resources, and just like, how did you find life coaching? Tell us more.
Yeah. So I had decided to quit medicine before my second son was born. I decided that whenever we came back to the US, I would quit because I had worked before here, and I've seen my colleagues not see their kids for like a week, and like that's not what I'm doing. So I had decided to quit, and I, still operated until it was like almost 8 months pregnant, and that was it. And then we moved when he was 2 months old. So I had a 2-year-old, a 2-month old overseas move. We had no furniture because it took weeks to get there on the container.
Oh my gosh, how stressful.
Oh yeah, old house and nothing. I don't know what happened. Like literally none of the machines in the house worked. And then, for a while, it's just like getting used to that life. Like, how do I even, I don't know, like cook for 4 people? I don't know how to do this. And just like have all this. And then I slowly, once that got a little, okay, now I know what to do. What my, it's a city that I didn't know and all that stuff. And once that got out of the way, then I started looking, okay, what am I going to do with my life now? And it took probably like a year of just like being depressed and feeling like I've ever, when you can actually cure cancer, in people, it's like, it's a high bar to kind of
That
like,
is a
how
high
am I
bar.
going to feel fulfilled again? Because I really love that. I loved my patients, and I loved helping people with something so important. So eventually Taylor, my then husband, said, maybe you should find a coach. And I always tell the story because it's true. I said, I don't play any sports. Why would I find a coach? That's how much I did not know about life coaching. And when he said, no, like a life coach, career coach or something, I was like, oh, that sounds like a scam. So if you ever felt like that, I hear you. I felt like that too. But when I looked at it, and it was immediately like, oh, this is 100% what I need to do with my life. Because the other thing that I loved, other than operating, was to help people, women who were mostly young, because I did breast cancer, to get used to their new life. So when that started, it was kind of at the same time that I was like, my youngest was like 1 and a little bit. So it was already kind of, he was in daycare and all that. So then I started doing things like I started doing improv, and I started going to Toastmasters. Like, okay, I need some stuff that is going to be for me. To kind of find out like what things that I used to like, what are they, where are they, so that you can actually find it. Because when you find yourself, around diapers and bottles and all that stuff, it's very easy to completely forget about yourself. I don't think I put earrings on until my oldest was like 1 year old.
Oh yeah.
And I really like to dress up. So it was like really hard for me to even look at myself like what is even happening. So I think like that small thing of just like a 1 day a week, I'm going to go do this one thing that's just for me, that has no kids. And it's like improv, for instance, a bunch of young people, they don't know anything about motherhood. It was amazing.
Yes.
So that was, starting to do that. And then slowly with that. And then I had then started coach training. So you get coached all the time, which is amazing. And then you start looking at things like, okay, who am I? Like, what are the things that I like, and what are the things that make up my personality, and and of course you change. So now who am this new person who has, other humans that we have to take care of. And I don't like these things that I used to like, but I like these other things. So I think with coaching, for me, at least when I started coaching, it got a little faster, because then it's like people actually helping you look. And look, say no, this
Almost like
just
giving you
get
like
you
a
out of
shovel.
the way.
Yeah,
Exactly. And getting all your limiting beliefs, all that stuff that society tells you have to do. Oh, but you have to, I don't know, make birthday parties that look like whatever. I never once in my life did that. I don't care. Like my kids, no, like their grandparents do it. They love it. They decorate everything. I'm like, I'm not that person. I'm not gonna do it. So, having those, and like, I feel like this does not make me a good or bad mom. This is totally fine. So I think when you start looking at those rules, and deciding, okay, yeah, that one I like, so I'm gonna keep it. That one I don't care, so you can go.
Yeah.
And then you start making more time for you to be okay. If you don't have to have those things that are such an effort because are not aligned with what you believe, it just frees a lot of mental space and actual free time for you to, to do things that are important to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like all the
Oh,
shoulds
totally.
that you came into
Yeah.
motherhood feeling,
Yeah.
whether that was
100%.
your mom, whether that was your in-laws, whether that was, society or
Yeah, I think
just
it's society in
movies.
general, like
Mm-hmm.
also your family and all that. But like even if you're raised in without any of these people telling you every day what you're supposed to do, it's just like it's the message we get all the time
Mm-hmm.
in society. And I was just talking recently. I started watching Bridgerton, and I'm very late to this party, but it was so hard for me. It's still very hard. I'm still going because like I mean, it's Shonda Rhimes, so it's really good. But
Yeah.
also the way that women were treated like objects. And this was 5 minutes ago in
Mm-hmm.
evolutionary, like for us as a species. So of course we feel unworthy. We were deemed like the only thing you're good for, like you look pretty and you find a
Mm-hmm.
husband and you procreate. That's all we need you for. And then you disappear.
Right.
That's be quiet, play your piano to entertain us, and that's it.
Yep.
So we still have that. So I think we have to really, I would say most, if not all women have some part of that because trauma is passed through generations and
Mm-hmm.
we're like 3 or 4 generations away from that, if that.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
That's not very long.
No, it's nothing. Yeah, exactly.
How did you start to recognize that's its effect on your life? Like, where did you see that narrative playing a part, or like some of that? Where how could you start to weed that out?
Yeah, I think it was because of the fact that I was always very much like, no, I do it as I please. I'm very, outspoken and all that stuff. And I would, not have a problem with speaking my mind. I mean, much the opposite, as many people will tell me. And suddenly I became the opposite of that. And when I noticed that, and I was like, why am I being like, I remember my mom telling to me once, was like, who are you? What is this? You are not this person. And I was like, what are you talking about? Or it was just so weird. So I think really looking at that photo that day was kind of what woke me up to it. And for different people is different things. But like I think one day you might just look at yourself in the mirror or something. I was like, what is this, sweatpants, all messed up person? And not that your appearance has to do with it, but like if you're a person who like, I like dressing up or just dressing in actual clothes, not PJs all day, so that for me was the thing. And I was like, why don't I care about myself at all to the point of not even, putting an earring on, which is something that gives me pleasure to myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think I noticed first on that, on how I was not speaking up and just being very much in the this is how I should behave
Mm-hmm.
because now I'm a mom and that's what moms do.
Mm-hmm.
When it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm still me and I happen to be a mom. And
Right.
how am I going to integrate that giant piece for sure into my already formed personality and not like, let me erase all of this and just have that part.
Yeah. Do you feel like becoming more you has made you a better mom?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, one very good example is the fact that we decided to separate. I think, for a while, there was that thing of, well, my kids really, it's so much better for kids if blah, 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 if your family is like this. And one day I was like, wait, what? What? Who said that? How? Like, no, no, it's better for them if we're happy and satisfied. And, if we're having conflict and we're doing something that we really don't want to do, it was not horrible. There was no like abuse or anything. We could have stayed married forever. I promise you, many people in our situation would stay married forever because it was just like, yeah, we're good friends. It's fine. It's okay. So, but one day I decided that just being fine was not okay anymore. I was like, that's not what I want. I want something much, much more than that. And I feel like if I'm, if I have more of what I want, it's going to be better for my kids. And it's been maybe months that we're not living in the same house. And I can see my kids already do. I feel like just because I feel better or we feel better and they don't witness that conflict and all these things, there's lots of stuff in their behavior that have changed. So in just such a short time. And even if you don't, even before we told them and we're kind of just like traveling a lot and all those things, I noticed that they were already kind of being a little different. So I don't think if I hadn't done this work in myself that I would have decided that that relationship was a relationship that needed to change.
Mm-hmm.
I would just like, yeah, you know what? I'm grateful because we have all these things. We do. There's all these things that are good, but it's not great. And I was like, no, I actually want great. And it's totally fine for me to want great and to show my kids. I was like, yeah, it was fine, but I don't want fine.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the sentences I found through your work was that you felt like gratitude had to stop being an excuse for me being myself. So can you expand on like what that looks like? Because I feel like that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I think I saw that a lot. I still see that a lot in friends and clients and everywhere, that people who have, for instance, a kind of relationship like we had, which was fine. Like, I should be so good. Whenever you lie down in bed, I'm like, but this is not, I don't know. No, I think I don't want this anymore, and like, you just have those things. And then there's a little things that annoy, but you don't say anything and just like collecting all that resentment. And then you're like, okay, no, if you feel even, no, I'm going to end this. No, but I should be grateful. I should be so grateful. I have a relationship, so I should be grateful. I mean, my partner is not abusive, so I should be grateful. My partner, I don't know, whatever, helps me out in doing their job, but whatever, right? We think these things, and we're like, no, I'm just going to be grateful. At least we have blah blah blah. And I think this is gaslighting yourself. Is just using gratitude against you. Because sure, you should be grateful for the things. 100%, I agree. And you can be grateful for things and also don't want them. That's fine. And I'm very grateful that we had an amazing relationship for a while and then stopped being amazing and became fine. It was like, well, that's not where, what I want to be anymore. So yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm grateful, but also bye.
Because I think that we're told that gratitude does bring a lot of happiness because it helps shift our perspective and focus on, the things that we want to see more of in life. But then, yeah, I think there might be a detriment where we get stuck in that and then begin to really just try to force everything into that. And so it's interesting to kind of like say like it's positive to a point.
Yeah. And I literally had a client yesterday that we're talking exactly about that, because she's, when you get to a point like, oh, nothing is working, everything is absolutely horrible, and my life is a disaster. Like, okay, that's not true.
Right.
And then the homework I gave her was like, okay, I just want you to notice very small things that are working. And you can do like, oh, I am alive. I have a roof over my head. I don't live in a country that's at war. Totally fine. Yes, because you should be grateful about all these things. Or also, I'm still healthy and I can do this thing. I don't know. Like there's, or my daughter, my son was happy today because of this thing. So that is helpful gratitude. Just like, let me look at what's working. But also in this client's case, she does want to change a lot of things. And it's like, yeah, so we're going to change it. You're going towards this. She's not, she's saying the things she wants, but at the same time, let's also look at what's working. Because sometimes it feels like, especially when you're in a big mess in your life, right? Something that's going to still happen. Doesn't matter how many life coaches you have. Things are still going to happen. And the important thing is for you to deal with those things in a way that doesn't feel like, well, the world is ending now and never anything is going to work again. And I'm just a failure and I can't nothing. That's just how it's going to be. So that's helpful to like, well, let's just put things in perspective. There is some stuff to be grateful for. And these are the other things that we also can look at about changing.
Yeah. So basically like reinforce the things that are working, call attention to that, and take action on what's not. Like you need both.
Yeah. I think it's a both kind of thing. Like, yes, be grateful and also but don't use it as an excuse, because a lot of people, I think, use that as an excuse to not change.
Right.
No, I shouldn't want to. I mean, I don't want to live in the city anymore, but I should be grateful because it's great and has great schools. And so I shouldn't. Yeah, but then, winter is killing you because you have seasonal affective disorder. But, well, maybe that's not the best place for you, because if you're going to 5 months out of the year feel like absolute crap, it's just like maybe it's worth looking at, something else instead of just being grateful about that and
Right.
forgetting about the rest.
Right. Yeah. I had a new client that I had a initial consultation with on Monday night, and they were saying that it took getting away, the two of them, on like a weekend where they didn't have the kids for a wedding. And then they realized how much fun they have together and how great things used to be. And then came home and had the realization of, oh, wow, we have just been waiting for things to get better for so long and did not realize like just how miserable we were until we like came up for air. And I realized like, how often is that the case where you just keep telling yourself that story of like, it'll get better without taking any action?
And I think that is exactly the thing. When things will get better when this one thing happens, and it's going to be whatever. Oh, when the partner gets a promotion, when you move, when
Yes.
your kids go to law, and whatever. Just this week, and there's the holiday and that other thing.
Next week will be
All
calmer.
those
Yeah.
totally. It's not. It's just not, because maybe the external circumstance is going to be a little calm, but then something else is going to happen, because it's just that's how life works.
Yeah.
So what you have to, there's not like whenever this thing happens, then I'm going to be happy. No, so you work on being, and don't mean I'd be absolutely delighted that things are going to shit, but like have a little more of that internal peace, and to know that, whenever the external circumstance change, yeah, that can get even better, but it's not going to magically do that. You have to be, I think the main thing is just being conscious about things. And I think if I had to say what is life coaching in a nutshell, is like, yeah, you just become conscious of things, and then just because of that you're able to change some things.
Right.
Because you look and like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Yeah, like this couple is like, oh, we're just sitting here waiting for a fairy godmother to come and like make everything amazing. It's like, no, if we feel so good when we don't have the kids and we're out with our friends and having fun, let's do that. Let's do that more. Let's have date night every single week. Let's
Right.
whatever, right? And maybe what you're going to realize is like, you know what? I love when I go out on a weekend by myself to the woods. My ex was like that, and like, yeah, go camping, like go disappear, like go do your thing, and I would go do my thing. When you start doing those things, I'm like, oh, then you can come back and feel so much better and have more patience and be more present, and actually take the things that are maybe going to shit or not ideal and have a different perspective on them.
Right. Because you can't solve a problem you can't name.
Yeah.
And that's that whole like conscious piece.
Yeah.
So I see that with parenting. You see that with, the women that are just really looking for finding themselves again. And so what are some of the other things that you have done to take action? So was the first one finding a coach or coaching certification, and like what has kind of that looked like down the road?
I think I started, well, I decided when I found coaching, I was like, oh, I'm definitely doing that. And then as I do things, it's just like I just let me do all the things about this now. Like immediately found a coach training, and it took a few months until it started. So in those, I think it was like 3 months. I started researching about it, and I really had no clue about those things, but I had lived in Hawaii in an intentional community where everybody was very much into that, the personal development and transformation. So I had an inkling of that. So when I decided on the life coaching thing, it was like, oh, I see. It was like that, but like let's just start looking at that. And that's when I started looking at small things in my life that I could just make a little better. So the improv and Toastmasters, that all came way before coaching. And I started noticing how those things, like that Tuesday night that I would go to my improv, was like oh my gosh, I had so much fun, and it was like sacred. I would never do anything else that day. And that that feeling would carry on for a few days. So when I started noticing that, I was like, okay, how can I make more of that? Sometimes with my kids. So sometimes I would take them to go to the kids show and improv. I was like, okay, so I'm having fun, they're having fun, yay, everybody.
Yeah.
um, but then when I really started coach training and started having a coach, that's when I think things changed a bit, just because when someone helps you to see your thoughts, so much better. So of course, it's totally possible to do all the things by yourself. But I think even now, have all the tools. I think I'm a really good coach, and still my brain would hide things from me. That for another person, when a coaching session as a client, they're like, oh, and it's literally just them saying it back to you. So just said this. I'm like, oh yeah, I hear that now. Okay, got it. Right. I know. I see what I'm doing. When you get, a little bit further down the road, you can see that. And I see this with my clients in like the third or fourth session. They start noticing things that are not even the thing that we were working on. But like, oh, I noticed this thing now in my work that we're working on in my personal relationships and things like that. Because you start seeing patterns everywhere. And when you wake up to consciousness, I think it's really hard to not start seeing everywhere. And it might be hard in the beginning. It might be really tough. And that's why in the beginning, I used to do like either 1 month or 3 months. And I felt a lot of times that was not really the best for the client, because you start poking around a bunch of things.
It gets messy.
And then you're like, okay, bye, we're done. And they're like, oh, this sucks. I hate it so much. And for a lot of people, that's not true. But for many there, maybe 3 months is not enough for you to really get to a point of like, okay, let's start changing for the good, not just like looking at all the things that are messy.
Finding all the problems and realizing all the things.
When you start really, oh, I see some positive change, instead of just, oh man, I have to cut off all these people from my life. I have to not do these things. And this is horrible. And I hate this. What am I doing? And that person always makes me feel like shit. Why do I ever talk to them? And those things may be hard, because sometimes those people are in your family.
Right.
Or good friends. And you really need to make those difficult choices. So yeah, it can be quick, but it also, the expectation that you're like in a month, they're going to have a lot of things figured out. It's, might be unrealistic depending on where you are.
That's exactly the reason why I shifted what I do too, because I started off kind of a la carte by month, working with families. And I just quickly realized like that's almost doing more harm than good by giving them too little information and not being able to follow through and help walk them through like the next few steps that are going to make that possible. Because parenting is not compartmentalized. It affects every aspect of your life, and so many things affect your ability to parent. So without being able to address all of those other factors, it was just not going to land long-term, the transformation that they're looking for. So that's why my minimum for working with families is 3 to 4 months now, because anything less than that, it feels messy. It feels like we're not getting to the place you want to get to. And so I don't feel like I can offer anything less anymore.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do 6 months now, and I've never finished and some people want to stay longer, but I've never finished a 6-month program and say, oh, this person has gone nowhere. Like never. It's like, okay, you're good to go. And of course, if you want to do more, I don't think I'm ever going to be without a coach. So I get it. But you already have all that stuff that you learn, and you integrate it, because the main thing is to get the automatic stuff out of the way, because the brain is going to do automatic stuff. So like until you can break that cycle, that's the work part. And when you start behaving automatically in the way that you want to behave instead of the way your default was, then you're like, okay, now you can continue this and do that, make that change in other areas too.
Hey friend, if you have a tiny human who is full of love and yet so difficult, and if you hate how angry you get with them, and it feels like you've tried everything and it works until it doesn't, then my Survive Your Strong-Willed Child Without Crushing Their Spirit training is for you. In this free class, we cover why strong-willed kids are so difficult to parent, the mindset shift to master, what doesn't work with them and what does, ways to leverage control for good, and how to powerfully transform your relationship with them today. Last time I hosted this, it was a huge hit. I forgot to record it, and I had so many people reaching out for when I was going to do the next one. So while it wasn't in the plans, I have another one on the calendar for Sunday, June 5th at 3 p.m. Central. Go to parentingwholeheartedly.com/strong-willed, and the link will be in the show notes, to go ahead and register for free. Snag your spot. Make sure that you can catch it live, ask all your questions, and you will not regret investing this time in figuring out your strong-willed child. Transform your relationship by cracking the code of their personality. Can't wait to see you there. Yep. Oh, it's so powerful. Yeah. We don't even know what we don't know.
Yeah.
So in your work with clients, what is like one or a few of like the main either mindset shifts or kind of like trends or things that come up in conversation that when given a soapbox, you feel like women need to hear? And what are those reminders?
Yeah. So I feel like if I had to like summarize everything, and I worked with a couple of men in the beginning, but then I quickly realized that I really liked working with women, and because it was a breast cancer surgeon before, I always worked with women, so I switched that. And what I noticed in basically all of my clients was that there was some version of the internalized patriarchy that was not allowing them to do whatever they wanted to do. So back to the Bridgerton thing, it's, there was some, you wanna ask for a raise, but you don't feel like you're worthy. And it's like, you can't do that. I have a good friend who used to work for New York Times, and she was like a director of whatever, like the Southwest, or she was like high up. And she said that when she asked for a raise, her boss, who was a woman, said, and she asked for a raise because she knows that everybody else in her position, they were all men, they made more money. And she's like, so I want to raise. And the boss was like, oh, thank God. Was like, you were the only one that never asked. So it's like, and she was like, what? I was like, yeah, I never thought, and like, this is so common. Or the partner thing. Like it's so innate to us to defer to them for some things that you might not even notice. Like with some clients, I have to point it out. I was like, do you realize that you also have the same, for instance, if someone wants to live in a different city, and I was like, well, now I have to move because, he wants to move. And I was like, well, maybe if you don't want to move, like, why is that, why is that, is he the priority here? And there might, they don't even know how to answer that question, because it's not like, oh, maybe when she also has a job and she was like, like equal, or even sometimes the woman's like the breadwinner, and still the male partner is taking all the shots, and she's like, yeah, sure, that's totally what it is. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's some version of that is like not even because the partner did it, but just like it's in our heads. So I noticed that with literally all of my clients. So I think the first thing is realizing is like, why does that happen? And why, like that is, first of all, that it happens. The mm-hmm. first thing is like, you're noticing that those things happen because this is the society we live in, because we always deferred, to the male part. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I got into a patient's room with a male medical student, and they would immediately talk to the medical student and like completely ignore me. That's just like the rule, basically. If there was a man next to me, they would never, ever, like not once in my life, they looked at me first. Never.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like those things. And if you talk to these people, they are not sexist, misogynist. No, mm-hmm. It's just, and sometimes it's women that do that, so just to start noticing those things and see where is it that you're still behaving as if you're, just in the 1800s as a person who is worth less.
Mm. Yeah, we could do some journal pages on that for a while.
Yeah. I have never met a woman who doesn't have a feeling of unworthiness, at least in some part of her life. It might not be full on, I feel unworthy and everything and I suck. Mm-hmm. But if you look hard enough, there's going to
Right.
be something that you do feel that you're just not good enough.
Right. There's going to be imposter syndrome that pops up when you try to do something, or there's going to be a dream you have that you don't pursue, or, somebody that you compare yourself to that you're never going to, feel like you're on the same level. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very subconscious. Anything else? That's kind of a overall theme.
Yeah, that's the overall thing. And then the first thing, well, when you start, first of all, noticing those things. And I think then when it might sound silly for people who are not doing this, but one very important thing is the self-talk, is the way you talk to yourself in your head. And most people are like, what? I don't talk to myself in my head. I was like, yes, you do. When you do something, like if you make a mistake, there are going to be thoughts in your head. It might be like, I have yet to meet a woman who says, oh, when I make a mistake, I'm like, oh, it's totally fine, as the pattern. The pattern is, oh, you're such an idiot, you stupid cow. It's like horrible things that you would never say out loud to another person. Right. And it's just like, oh, of course, nothing ever happened, like blah, 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 because you're like, we have that. And it might, of course, there's degrees, but I will challenge, if you're a woman and you're listening to this, I would challenge you to start noticing that, how you talk to yourself. And the way you talk to yourself, if you imagine a 4-year-old in front of you and you cannot talk to that 4-year-old the way you're talking to yourself, you need to stop right now. You need to stop, and you need to talk to yourself as you speak to a 4-year-old. Not like, oh, coochie coochie, but like, oh, of course you did that. Of course you behave that way. Obviously. Like, I mean, you have been conditioned forever to do that. Of course. Of course. And I talk to my brain like that a lot, because my brain a lot of times offer me things like, what? No. And I have to be like, oh, obviously. Yes, of course. You're just afraid. That is fine. Of course. You don't want me to die. And it's usually when you do something for the first time, right? So the brain is like, you're going to die. Don't do that. Stay watching Netflix on the couch. Do not do that thing. This is safe.
Abort the mission.
Yeah. So you can use that to be just like, of course, it's fine. But come here, give me a hug. We're cool. We're not gonna die. It's okay. Right. And so that's super important. And then the thing that to me was the hardest, I'm still learning this. I think I'm never going to stop, which is to feel your feelings. And I don't mean just allowing yourself to be angry and yell at people, which is something that we definitely should learn, because as women, we're like, no, you should not be angry. You should always be nice, and should always pay attention to other people's feelings. And I think that's might be okay in a lot of situations, but not as a rule. And a lot of times you do have to annoy people, disappoint people, anger people, because you have to speak up for yourself. And I think it's not just even that, it's just feeling the feelings in your body as a body sensation. For instance, if you think of something that recently you got angry about, and you bring up that memory, if you close your eyes and you bring the memory of like, okay, I got really angry at that person who did this thing, and you feel what happens in your body. And to me, for instance, it's usually a constriction in my chest and my throat. And sometimes it's something very, very, very subtle. So to me in the beginning, I was like, oh, I can't do that. I don't feel like everything's my head. Like there's nothing in my body that I can identify. But with practice, you can start doing that. And once you do that, first of all, you realize that you can't die of a feeling. So it's okay to feel your feelings. When you feel your feelings, the negative ones, the anger, the sadness, the grief, all that, you automatically feel more of the joy, happiness, and all that. And I can confirm this to be true in the phase of my life. There's lots of feelings. I mean, when I'm sad, I'm sad. I am crying for an hour, and there's, I'm just feeling like the world has ended. And then I feel that actual sensation in my body. I feel the constriction kind of release a little bit. And to me, that is one of the most important things we can do. Just to let the emotion through your body and like feel until you're done feeling it for that moment. And then you can take a breath and like, okay, all right, now I can go back to my life and see what's going on. And for me, at least, it's like, well, now I have to go rest because I'm exhausted, because it kills me. But then also when I'm happy, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. So I think if people learn to do just that, it would be just such a change from the normal way that most people live their lives. Especially when you're a parent, because there's lots of things. There's just like stuff. It's like, I'm not going to feel this right now. I don't have time. And for me, I noticed that when I started doing that, I had gigantic feelings less with my kids. They're not their fault. I didn't throw my feelings at them. I was able to process them myself and not yell at them for something that they're just being kids doing things that kids do and they do every day and whatever. Right. Yeah. So you're able to come to them with more love and understand that they have those feelings too. And then like, oh crap, imagine that and that little body. Jesus. Like I can't deal with my feelings. How am I expecting them to do that?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big ask.
Yeah. Yeah. So doing that and teaching your kids to do that. I tell my kids sometimes like, hey, listen, I'm really anxious right now. Like my brain cannot function properly. So I'm going to need some quiet time. So I'm going to go in my room and here's what you guys do this. And I just need some time to calm myself down. And, when you do that, you also, whenever they're having big feelings like, hey, do you need to go to your room for a little bit? Not like, go to your room. Like, do you want to go to your room? Do you want me to go with you? Do you need a hug? Do you want me to hold your hand? Do you need to leave? Whatever. Like, and they do that super well. Like my 4-year-old's like super good at doing that. Just like, I'm just going to my room and he's there and he punches a pillow. And then after a while, I was like, I'm ready for a hug now.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Good for him. Yeah. The only way he's going to learn that is if you model it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. He's lucky to have you.
Thank you. I agree.
Yes. So there was an aspect of your story that was related to current events, and I wanted to be able to give you some space to kind of share that backstory as well. So I know you have led a very audacious, full life up until parenting, starting that at 42. So go ahead and share how you relate to kind of the whole Roe v. Wade upheaval and some of those conversations lately.
Yeah. So what I shared, and that's how we connected back, was that I did have abortions with an S in the past. And those really defined my life for a long time. I was 18, 19, something like that. And I lost my virginity at 18. So it was like, roll straight up.
Wow.
And I lived in Brazil. Brazil, abortions are illegal, always were illegal, probably always will be. And so it's not like you just, it's if you have money, which I did, if you were privileged, which I was, you will go to a very nice clinic and you have it done. And I don't know why, but in Brazil, at least at that time, this was like, I'm almost 49 now, so it's 30 years ago. There was no medication. It was actually a procedure. So you would go to a clinic and you do a procedure and be fine and all that, right? But as a doctor in the ERs and all that, I would see people who were not privileged and who did not have money or the knowledge to find those clinics. And I saw so many women either mutilate themselves or actually die, or just, I cannot tell you that how much this affected me, like this news now, and I live in Texas. So, now they're thinking of asking for if a woman is ever going out of state, she might need a pregnancy test. And if she is pregnant, she needs to take another test when she comes back. It's like, are we back in the 1800s? Just to keep the theme going here. It's like, what is happening right now? This is insane to me. This is 2022. And I just think people don't realize, or at least those people in power don't realize that when you ban abortions, you're just banning safe abortions. And I know, and people, I don't know what is the reason other than religious. I don't know which other reason might there be, at least outwardly, like that is what it is, right? It's a sin, so let's not do it. It's like, you know what? You have the right to have your religion and not ever have an abortion and not gay marry and not whatever, like just do that. That's what it means. When you say, I cannot do this because my religion does not allow me, you don't do it. You don't get to do it, but not other people. And I just think that controlling someone's body is so insane. Can you imagine, just picture this, a man, if you tell a man now you have to do this, like like I don't even know how to come up with an example because it's so, I mean, out of this world. They would be like, oh no, absolutely not. Can you imagine just like, okay, now everybody has to have a vasectomy at this age or whatever. If you have X number of kids, now you need a vasectomy, whatever. Can you imagine? No, they'll be like, of course not. It's my body. I'm going to decide. And yet it's fine to control women's bodies. So this is really a topic that makes me insane because I just don't understand how you can force a pregnancy on people when being a mom is literally, from a person who's been a surgeon, a firefighter, a garbage collector, is literally the hardest thing you can do.
Right.
Like, how can you impose that in people and then not provide anything for when they actually have, like, there's no paid maternity leave, there's no childcare, how does that make sense? I mean, I can literally like scream about this because it's just like, so being a very empathetic person and very sensitive to things that are outside of me, I kind of like even have to like chill on that sometimes. Like I cannot go to a protest because I think I will literally strangle people if they come to me with like, how? No, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like it really like riles me up in a way that, because I do feel for this. I've seen them and I've been one, and I'm so fortunate to have had the option, but because I had the means, and most women don't. And sometimes they're 15 years old, sometimes they've been raped, sometimes, so I think it's, I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna change that. Honestly, it feels like, the minds have been made, but I hope there's some light in the end of the tunnel, because that is going to be, that is already is, right? In Texas, basically a crime if you do that. So it's insane. And I really feel, I'm not going to have any more pregnancies, but I really feel for the people who might need that.
Right. Because in your doctor medical opinion, what procedures need to continue to be legal for the health and safety of women?
Well, definitely abortions. That's 100% sure. And, I think whatever you do to your own body it should be your choice. And of course, for instance, if a person would come to me when I was a surgeon and say, hey, I want you to perform this thing on me, and I didn't think that was, the right thing to do, I wouldn't do it. So if you want to do something, everybody was like, okay, this is completely out of anything. Like, you're not going to find a person to help you with that, right? Because it's just, I mean, there are some things that you can still draw a line at, but deciding on what to do when you get pregnant, especially if there's, either if it's rape or if the kid, that the child's not going to survive, and all these things, like at the very bare minimum, like those things, right? Or increase the time, because in Texas is 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, you don't even know you're pregnant a lot of times. So, there has to be, even if you want to regulate our bodies, there has to be a better way than just completely forbidding this.
Because there's ectopic pregnancies, there's miscarriages that don't pass, and there's so many reasons for the same type of procedure that are medically necessary.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, those, like, not being able to do a procedure when you had a miscarriage and you still have, like, what is that all about? That is, to me, that is actually malpractice. You have to do it. Like, how can that not be allowed? It's not, I really don't understand. And I think a lot of times, for me, it comes down to, it makes me really angry with any sort of organized religion. Because, and as I mentioned in that post that you saw, I was like, I don't think Jesus Christ was in the business of doing that, of, deciding, shaming people and deciding that this is wrong and all that. I really don't think so. And I think this is just something that men, like regular men, have decided that is a way to control women, as it always has been. And that's just how it is. It's just what it is. Let's just call it what it is. It's white men usually wanting to control women, to keep them under their wing. That's all.
It's just another form of oppression. We have so many.
Yeah, because I think they might be losing a lot of it, and it's going to take generations, obviously. But there is so much now that men cannot do anymore, and that was okay just a few years ago. So I think there's like, oh, we need to continue putting a lid on that thing, because like we can't just let women walk around doing whatever they want to do with all the rights that we have. That's going to be madness. They're going to change the world, which we totally will. 100%.
We totally will.
We should totally be afraid, because that is exactly what would happen. 100%.
Yeah. Because of audacious, intimidating women like you. So thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So moral of the story, banning abortions bans safe abortions.
Yeah, of course. And abortion, you just ban the abortions that are, that allow the people to survive and have a decent life after that. You don't stop them.
Anything else to say on that?
I mean, yeah, I'm going to stop saying it because if I keep doing it, it just makes me really angry. And I think that's an important thing to say also, because we have taught not to be angry, and it's fine to be angry. It's crazy not to be angry about this. And I think anger is a necessary emotion to make change. So a lot of times, yes, you need to be angry, and you need to talk to the people in your life, to the men in your life, and say, hey, I'm angry. Can you please be angry on my behalf? Because this is what's going on now for me. And I know for, a white cishet male, it's like kind of hard to understand how that can be, but like, this is real. And it's, as women, we know how it is to be scared of a lot of things. And not being able to create that safety for ourselves. So the more allies we have, the better.
Yeah, because it isn't just affecting us, it's affecting our daughters. It's affecting, even though I'm past that age, what if an unexpected pregnancy came now and I had complications with it, and who knows what could happen, or, based on where I live, that just, it's scary. The unknown is scary with that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to have a conversation that highlighted that, because it's an important motherhood related issue to address and talk about. And we need everybody to be hearing each other's experiences and stories, and just knowing what that really is going to look like if we go down that path.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the more people who are in the positions of power, especially, in the Christian space and all that, because there's lots of people who are Christian who's like, no, that's bullshit. We're not doing that. Right. So we need more of those people, because those are the people that can talk to the other, because they're not going to listen to us, crazy hipsters, liberals, and whatever. But they might listen to their pastor or something, right? Like there are a lot, and I see a lot of them, like on TikTok. For some reason, I see a bunch of pastors saying, "No, that is not what we're all about. Like, do not do that," and that's insane. Let's not go that route.
Yeah, and I was posting on my Instagram stories that 20 years ago, I was growing up in a church that went down to Planned Parenthood and had pro-life rallies. Right. That was my community growing up in South Dakota. That was all I knew. And, there was only one narrative, and it was, save the babies. And so that was really the only understanding I had up until hearing more people's experiences and really learning the full facet of what goes on in the gray space that is every moral and ethical decision that is not as black and white as we would like to have our certainty with it. And as I started working with families and just understanding what it really takes even to raise a child, because how do you know that at 15, right?
No.
Then now I'm absolutely convinced, no matter my religious affiliation, that there's no question that it should not be a legislated decision. It should come down to every single mom and their, medical provider.
Yeah. And, the people who go to those rallies, like instead of wasting your energy doing that, just to go go to an orphanage, like go help babies, go fundraise to provide mothers who have to work with childcare, go fight for paid maternity leave, because I bet you if that was the case, it would be so much easier on families. That's insane that doesn't
There's
happen.
so many things that we could do
just
to
use
help.
your energy for that. If you really want to help, if it is about the babies, which we all know it's not about the damn babies, but like if it is about the babies, just go help the damn babies and their moms instead of just worrying about the babies that are not here. Like worries about the babies that exist right now.
Yes. There's so many babies that exist that need help. And
exactly.
Especially in the United States, we have so much work to do to support families.
Yeah.
It's absolutely bonkers to me, the things that we do not have support for. So if we could work on that, that would be great.
Yeah, exactly. So just a thought. Next time you go to Planned Parenthood, instead, go do something for
that was in your plans today.
Babies.
Turn around.
Babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell listeners how they can connect with you and your platforms and your work after this episode.
Sure. I have my website. It's manuelapowell.com, and I'm in all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as Dr. Manuela Powell, so Dr. Manuela Powell. I love to connect to new people, so please come and say hi. And yeah, let's fight this, the patriarchy, the inside and the outside together, because we need all the hands on deck on this one.
Yes, all hands on deck. And so you are considered a mindset coach that has life coach certification, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So who is your ideal client to be able to work with?
I work with women that I work with all women, and I do have clients that I work with business coaching, and there's some people who have, I consider myself a general life coach. So basically whatever is that you feel your life should be different. There's this thing that I can't do that I wanted to change, or I feel like there's a general feeling of should be more than this. I don't think I'm doing this right, or I don't like the way my life is going. That has a solution. So I would love to help you.
Fantastic. And then the last question I ask every guest that I bring on is, how are you the mom that your kids need?
Well, the easy answer is that's the one they have. So they have to deal with me. But I do think that a friend of mine recently told me about this thing that she calls soul contracts. And, in this belief, people, whenever they come to Earth, they made a contract that there is a reason for you and the other person to be in relationship. And that reason is for you to evolve as a human. Because I do believe that, as what I believe about why are we here as humans is we are infinite beings that got bored by being infinite, because there's no challenge in that. So we decided to pretend we're not infinite and have emotions and have all these things. And the people in your life are the people that are going to provide you with all the growth that you need. So I think that's why I'm the best for them, because we're made for each other, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that thought. That's really comforting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your willingness to be audacious and vulnerable and honest, and just be able to give us a peek into your journey and what it is to be you. And thank you so much for doing all that work of being able to free more women to be themselves and find themselves after motherhood. It's just so needed.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun. I think we could have talked for 3 more hours. as you said before.
We just scratched the surface, but it was
yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks again.
It was a pleasure.
Yes. Ugh. This episode was so good. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to hear stories because everyone's journey looks so different. And I just feel like it's so beautiful to share those and to hear those and just get to be a part of that closeness. So thank you to Dr. Manuela. Go connect with her work. Thank you for investing your time in supporting and hearing other mothers' journeys. And I hope that if you are getting something from these episodes of value, that you have connected with us on Instagram at parent_wholeheartedly, or left a review on Apple Podcasts, give us a little star rating on Spotify, and post a screenshot to your Insta stories and tag us with anything that you appreciated or learned. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. I believe in you, and I'm cheering you on.